our director of advocacy and policy, Miracle Jones Esquire. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you have some questions for Rev?
I have a few questions. I'm gonna kind of rapid fire these, so because for time. But you talked a little bit about the work that you're doing, and you mentioned Cancer Alley.
Yeah.
And so one of my questions is, what do you see the barriers in bringing and diversifying the environmental justice issue?
Great question.
Because we know that our kids are Black and brown kids are suffering with high rates of asthma. We know a lot of these petrochemical plants are put in Black and brown neighborhoods, particularly Black neighborhoods. We know that the workers are getting poisoned, and we still have lead in our water, lead paint. What do you see as the barriers? Because we are really impacted, and people as the global majority, whether it's people in the struggle in Hawaii, all over. So how do you remove white supremacy out of the environmental justice space, I guess, would be the question.
You can't. You can't. You can't remove it.
Homegrown, right?
Yeah, no, you can't remove it. And I think that what you have to show them where they are hypocritical in what they're doing. So we make sure, this is very important, those who have been deemed in these communities sacrifice zones. Let's be very clear. The fossil fuel industry business plan is a death sentence for our communities.
Mm-hmm. They build petrochemical plants right next to the hood in the South all the time.
Their business plan, when they're writing out in tables like this, they are literally putting down the fact that our community, our mamas, our daddies are expendable. And that even if we sue them, that's a part of their business plan. So we got to start there. And so that the key thing is that, one, we have to make sure the demonstration part, that we have to continue to lift up our voice, wherever that is, and say that, we will not be the path of least resistance. We will not allow you to put those petrochemical facilities next to our playgrounds. We will not allow you to continue to put right here, like in the Beaver County shell cracker. Mm-hmm. We won't allow you to do that. We know, and that we have to fight. We got to speak up. Also, we got to claim it as our issue, right? And the second thing we got to do is litigation, right? And legislation. We got to make sure that we have a strong presence, that we are doing everything in the courts and everything regarding policy. Because we know either you shape policy or policy shapes you.
True.
But we also know that we've too long been hard on demonstration and not heavy on litigation and legislation. And we know that demonstration without litigation and legislation leads to frustration. So we got to bring those together. The other thing that, for those who want to be allies, we have to hold them accountable.
That's a fact.
In 2017, the New School did a study in which they looked at how much, let's be real, the environmental funding sector is the largest progressive funding sector out of all our sectors. So, for instance, they looked at the 12 largest foundations, and they literally in 2017 they gave up these 12 funders. They gave out $1.3 billion in 1 year. Mm-hmm. Out of that $1.3 billion they gave out, only 1.3% went to BIPOC organizations.
Wow.
So while they're saying on a federal level we need to have a Justice 40 initiative, which means that 40% of the impacts that from the money resources from the impact go to that community, there's not even a Justice 40 within the funding sector.
Absolutely.
It's not even a 1%. It's actually like a 1.2%, wherever it is, sector. So while you will have me and put folks in front of a camera in a very usatory way, say, look at them. They getting poisoned by Shell and Exxon. Oh my goodness. Look at them, boy. They drowning in Uganda. They drowning over there in Trinidad. They drown over there in Mississippi. Oh my goodness. They got bad water in Baltimore and bad water in Flint, and they got bad water in Pittsburgh. But in doing that, we rise up and say, okay, well great. We got one hood, we got this group, we got that group. And then they say, well, we can't give you that money. We're going to give it to these large green. That has to change.
Right.
That's white supremacy.
True. Mm-hmm.
So we have to, listen. I will never forget when I went to New York to speak, and it was in the place where Sean Bell was killed and murdered. I went there to speak, and I was there. I got finished speaking. A young young brother came to me, could be no more than 12, 13 years old. And he came to me, he said, man, Rev, I wish there was more environmentalists who look like you. And at first I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So maybe it might be, the cool Nikes or the hat. I'm not sure, what I'm saying, whatever it might be. You know what I mean? But this is what he said afterwards. This was what got me. Because sometimes we forget that there is what we call GATA, genius outside the academy. That our community, our young people are genius. And so he set me up. I didn't even know where he was coming. The young brother set me up. He got me. He said this. He said that, man, I wish more environmentalists like you, Rev. He said this. He said, I got to ask you a question, though. I said, what? He said, why do you want to save hell so bad? He said, why do you want to save hell so bad? Because if you save this thing, them hurting me, hurting our community.
Wow.
The civil rights, you do all that. We still going to be suffering. We still going to be not being educated. We still going to be in prisons. I still going to feel unsafe in my community. Why you want to save hell so bad? And I realized that I have to disconnect myself from that thinking of white supremacy that if they don't even exist, we got to fight. And so Hip Hop Caucus, and I'm trying to get one hood and get others, that I'm trying to get our own table. We have folks who I know are working within our civil rights division. We got amazing Executive Vice President Tanya Clayhouse, who runs that division, who was coming in there saying that we have to bring in more civil rights and human rights into this because climate justice is racial justice.
Yes.
And racial justice is climate justice. So that would be the answer to your question.
Okay.
Wow, powerful.
And, you mentioned political education. My favorite clip of Chairman Fred Hampton is talking about the importance of education so that we're not replicating the systems of oppression. We know there was the Platinum Plan, all of these plans that some people have put out about what to do for our communities. How do we invite people who are in the arts to get a political education after they have reached a level of success where they're no longer just trying to make it out? Because there's a difference, I think, when you're reaching people, when they're just trying, to help their family.
When they're coming up, right?
But they're coming up. But then once they make it,
they got the mansion and the money.
There's a bit of a struggle. So what does that political education process look like? And then my last question is, because you have the Stop Cop City hat, and I know the week starts this weekend and it goes on to next about fighting. How does it feel to be fighting for all of this environmental justice, but now the leaders of the oppression are Black people?
Yeah, well,
that's deep.
Yeah, no, that is deep, and that goes back to Tyree Nichols, obviously,
absolutely,
right, in Memphis, and the conversation behind his murder, and many other murders, right. So let me just start with the Cop City. That's an easy one to start with. I'm going to say that off the top. They're obviously, for those who don't know, in 2017, the Atlanta Police Foundation put forth a recommendation to create basically a cop, and there's also supposed to be a cop city here in Pittsburgh as well, right? So they now want to create these institutions of basically trainings to really halt the voice of the people. And so Cop City was put forth. It's in the Willingney Forest, which is actually considered the lungs of Atlanta. And so they want to tear that forest down, literally, which actually helps those communities not have asthma and emphysema and breathe better. Tear it down and build up basically a firefighter/cop facility. And so literally in 2021, activists, force defenders, community activists, and many others do a great work of pushing back. That has just grown. At the beginning part of this year in January, a young person, pronouns they, them, who was amazing, Tortuguita was his name, called him Tort, was assassinated, right? Defending the force. And that also was a different level because climate defenders have been killed globally, but this is kind of one of the first cases when somebody was killed here. So it actually was killed in Atlanta during the Dr. King week, during birthday week. And so from there, that then has risen up a situation where people are now gathering between now March 4th through March 11th. But even more importantly, if you hear this after that, at that time frame, you can go to copcitysolidarity.org. That's copcitysolidarity.org to be engaged. I hope that all groups are engaging and join up to that Hip Hop Caucus will be as a part of how others will join. But this is the thing that segues into your other question about, in essence, bougie class folks who forget about where they come from. Mm-hmm. So, in that situation in Cop City, Atlanta, and others, there are a lot of folks from the beginning of our time coming to these shores who somehow are much more comfortable living in the house, and they will fight the folks on the plantation to keep their comfortability in the house. As a matter of fact, they'd be like, master pays me good, I eat good, I got nice clothes, and that's their whole process. In the meantime, they will look out they look out the mansion's window and seeing those out there in the field and not feel anything. I can't really speak for them because I am a field Negro. So I don't know what it feels like to look out of Master's house, to look out the window and see your sisters and brothers in the field hurting. I know if I was there, it would be chaos in Master's house if I was in the house knowing my people outside the house hurting. So I can't speak for them. And I feel sorry they feel so comfortable in the house. What I can speak to is that I know that if we come together and we organize, we can be free. That's our only job here. And we have to not allow for those who are in these positions who want to be comfortable. And that's hard too, because when you go to these, listen, I speak around the country, when you go to colleges, it's hard because you go to schools, I went to HBCU, that's my shout out for HBCUs.
Yeah.
But when you go to other schools, it's hard to be on these campuses and be the
True.
only black person and go through, and then you feel that weight, and, to kind of acquiesce or kind of just, be part of the system. So I get it. I'm not saying it. So I would say this. Our goal is to make sure that we're free. Now, let's be very clear. There is a need, this is probably getting deeper into it, but there's a need to have spook who sat by the door.
Yeah.
There's a need for folks to be inside the house who can tell folks outside what's going on. So I'm going to be very clear. It's not just, I don't be just if you're inside. If you're inside positions or you're around positions of power, you need to relay that information back to the community so they can know what's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be very clear. There are folks who are there are folks who may be working at Exxon and BP or whatever, who are relaying information back about things, or who work for the police department or work 100%. For some places, who are relaying things back to, this is what's going on.
Yeah. Be on the lookout.
Use your position.
Yeah.
But if you're in these positions and you're using the position to hurt our community, you are part of the problem.